Well, the digital theme certainly everywhere in Davos this year, and who better to talk about it than John Chambers of Cisco, perhaps one of the first real visionaries about the internet.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask you first of all about the Internet of Everything, because that's something which so many people are talking about, and it's been one of your passions for longer than I can think. So, how ubiquitous is this going to get? Are we really going to have televisions talking to the fridges and that sort of stuff, or is that a very simplistic way to look at the Internet of Everything?
I think it's simplistic. What's going to happen is you're going to move from 1,000 devices connected to the Internet when Cisco was founded in 1984 to 14 billion today, by 2020 50 billion, by one decade later over 500 billion. Every country will become digitized, and it isn't about connecting things, it's about getting the right information at the right time to the right machine or person to change their lives. And so it will create job growth in countries like India, it will create inclusive job growth, it will change GDP, it will change healthcare, it will change education, it will change smart cities. In short, every company, every country, every city, every house, every car, every wearable will be connected to the Internet.
So let me start off by asking from the point of view of an individual,
Yes.
A consumer.
Yes.
How does it change her life?
Well, if you look at it, let's use an example of retail. If everything in the store is connected, the store can cater to the individual interests of the individual. They can basically have very short retail lines when they go out. They can see that you hesitate in an area and ask, do you need some assistance? It can increase the shopping experience dramatically. But what it really can do for the individual, it can change their health care, it can change their education, it can change the way they do their work, the capability to work from home. Think what it means. It means the last traffic jam ever. You have to go to a museum to see what a traffic jam looks like to explain it to the kids. And you know, in India, that is a challenge. Think of it as the last retail line you have to ever wait in. Think of it as the last piece of baggage you ever lost coming to Davos, and you know what it's like on that. Think of it as the last time a video will ever be disrupted. And the ability to really...
Till the net goes down. But the danger with that is that if the net ever goes down or you're not getting proper quality signal, then suddenly life comes to a standstill.
Well, it doesn't come to a standstill, but there are tremendous benefits from this, and it will change every aspect of our lives, and it's unstoppable. But if you don't have the reliability and the security and the privacy, that will slow its growth down.
One of the big questions about inclusiveness, and this is a concern especially in places like India, is that not everyone has access to the internet. Not everyone has broadband, and people even in cities who can afford it sometimes don't get reliable broadband or Wi-Fi. And that's an issue, because you could potentially have that digital divide that we keep worrying about, and it's possible that you could have two-track growth. Are you concerned about those things?
I think you have to be aware and say, how do you prevent it? Your leader, Modi, he's amazing. If I were going to bet on one emerging country in the world, I'd bet on India. And by the way, Cisco is. We're doubling down on India. We believe in your direction of your country. He understands what smart cities means. He understands how you do this inclusion for everyone in India, and how over time you bring broadband to every citizen in India, whether it's for their education, whether it's for their health care, whether it's for their job creation, etc. I think your country will be one of the first large digital countries in the world.
So if you had to say anything to Mr. Modi on those issues and others, of course in India they asked a question about spectrum. I mean, I was hearing at some sessions here in Davos people saying spectrum should be ubiquitous, should be free, don't license it out. What would you be saying on how you make sure everyone has access to the internet?
Well, I think the most important thing you start with is a realization of all the advantages when everything becomes digital for a country, for citizens. So your goal should always be, how do you get everything to become digital, and how do you give everybody access to that, and how do you make sure that the people that build out this infrastructure can get a return, otherwise the infrastructure doesn't get built out. So you have to balance multiple constituencies, and you can make it a win-win. I think with the right role of government and business working together with society, you can accomplish that.
So we had, like the chairman of SoftBank, when he came to India, he essentially did tell Mr. Modi that if you're building an information superhighway, you can't have spectrum in bicycle tracks, and that's what some people are concerned about in India. The sort of digital infrastructure that exists today, and I'm not just talking about the rural areas, I'm even talking about the cities.
So Masa-san is a very good friend of mine from SoftBank. We've worked together for 15 years. He knows how to dream and make dreams come true. If you watch, what you're really saying, it's like having a highway. You don't want to build a 4-lane highway within a mile of the home and then you have to take a trail to get there. You have to connect with high speeds throughout, and you have to make the regulatory, the business, and the government decisions on what your end goal is. So often, my parents were doctors. So often people get hung up on the symptoms and how do I solve the spectrum issue or how to get this equally divided, as opposed to what's the end opportunity or challenge you address. The end opportunity is broadband to everyone. The end opportunity is digital everything, and that's what each of the government and business leaders and citizens should work toward.
Right, but you are optimistic that Mr. Modi gets it, and that you said that India is the one country in the world you'd bet on.
Right now, it is the most enlightened emerging market in the world. We are doubling down. We have over 14,000 employees in India. You're going to see us make huge commitments to the country, partner with many of the Indian companies, work on smart cities together, and help the dream that India has at all levels, including your leader and Mr. Modi, accomplish.
And what would be your blueprint for the smart cities?
The smart cities is broadband everywhere, but people get confused. It is not about connectivity. Merely connecting things gets you nothing. All it does is a lot of data that you can't use properly. So you have to think about it in multiple stages. The blueprint has to be, how do you combine all of these? We did almost all the smart cities in the world. Barcelona is rated the top innovation city in Europe. And in Barcelona, the first thing they did was say, how do they provide government services better? How do they do better traffic control? How do they make better use of public transportation? How do they change parking forever? How do you work from home with TELE-PRESENCE? How do you literally do smart garbage collection? And now you see cities like Hamburg, cities like Chicago, very much falling into that same mode. I think that's what you're going to see across India. But you have to think of everything together and think horizontal on outcomes as opposed to technology, spectrum, and a device.
Right. I mean, you mentioned telepresence, and I was about to come to that because when telepresence was first launched, many of us hoped we'd never have to travel again. You can just sort of sit there. And actually, the experience is really great. When you're sitting there, you feel you're in the same room as somebody, so you don't have to travel. Not yet fully taken off, or are you satisfied with where it's got to?
I think the right summary is what you said. For the C-suite, the top executives, I'd probably doubled the number of customer visits that I did by using telepresence. I spend more time on our virtual second floor than I do our physical first floor with customers. However, the price points were so high, either for a full conference room or down to an individual telepresence unit. Individual telepresence unit might have cost $20,000. Today it costs $2,000. So you will see us put telepresence on every sales rep, every SE's desktop in Cisco, 25,000 units. That will change productivity. And where you're going is collaboration, which includes telepresence, it includes web conferencing, it includes instant messaging. If we make that really easy to use, it will drive productivity of the workforce 3 to 5%. Cisco intends to lead on that. We also intend to lead on security.
Well, that's fascinating. So any final thoughts from you on, if you had to take a look at the digital future, 10 years from now, what would be your other big bets?
I think you're going to see technology not just move to next generation. The impact of the Internet of Everything and everything going digital, every country, every company, every person, is probably 10 to 15 times more than the impact of the Internet to date. So it has the chance to change countries and companies and citizens in a way that like never before. Fast innovation. However, if you don't change, you get left behind. And that's the key takeaway from here at Davos. The CEOs get that. The government leaders get that. You're going to see a different sense of urgency this year. 2 years ago, when I talked about it, people said, that's nice, but if you don't buy me a drink, I'm not going to talk anymore. Today, you have heads of states, board of directors, CEOs saying, how do we work with Cisco to transform our company or our country?
Is there a concern, which I've also heard expressed here, you said the impact of the Internet is only just starting, and that's actually something quite fascinating when you think about it, that it's only just starting. There is concern, though, that the change could be for the good. It could perhaps also be for the bad. Job loss. A lot of people are concerned about that. What is that going to mean? Does it mean that you're going to have all of these internet devices, but people are going to lose their jobs, going to be out of a livelihood? Is it going to increase inequalities in the world?
Sure.
How do you respond to that?
I think if we do it right, as countries, as government, as business, and as citizens, it will be incremental job growth. And let's just use the example. We train each year 1 million students on a global basis for the network academies. We're going to start training this next year 100,000 students on the Internet of Everything. Probably in 3 years, we'll do 300,000. We're training the electricians in Germany, instead of just do electrical work, how do you train them on the Internet of Everything to connect sensors? So it's going to be a rotation of where the jobs will be created. And if companies and countries provide the education to allow their workforce to change, I think it is not only a net major increase in GDP, I think it's an increase for the average income, and I think it's an inclusive one that creates more jobs.
All right, Mr. Chambers, such a pleasure talking to you. And big takeaway I'm going to take from that, as you said, India is the one country in the world you'll be betting on. And
India, double down on India.
all right, thank you so much. Thanks a lot.